A lot of noise is being made now about the deaths and the tragedy of the boat that sank in the English Channel last night. The NGO Utopia 56 says that it gives out its number and received a number of telephone calls yesterday, but had no way of knowing where the callers were speaking from. We received multiple distress calls. We contacted the Coast Guards to pass on this information. Our team are all volunteers and they're on the ground 24/7. They deserve so much respect. The border, they say, kills, and we see more deaths in the Channel. We will see more deaths in the Channel unless safe routes are established. The smugglers only exist because there are no safe routes. Again, they're simply repeating what I've been saying. The Public and Commercial Services Union, the PCS, accused the UK government of having blood on its hands. The head of bargaining, Paul O'Connor, said there was a policy available to prevent deaths, and he regretted the government had failed to heed the union's call to adopt it. It's clear they have no desire to prevent these dangerous crossings. Instead, they're pouring taxpayers' money down the drain on policies which are unlawful, unworkable, doomed to failure. Why? Because they want to scapegoat refugees to deflect from their own catastrophic failings on people's living standards. They don't care that people die as a result. They have blood on their hands. That's what he says. Now, I cannot possibly say what is in the minds of government ministers like Suella Braverman and Robert Jenrick. My own personal opinion is there's not very much in the minds of Robert Jenrick and Suella Braverman except a little bit of rhetoric which they've learnt the day before. But numerous charities are now calling for safe and legal routes, and we know that Suella Braverman was placed on the spot and asked by Tim Lawton on the 22nd of November, before her ridiculous Nationality and Borders Act came into effect and defined people who were crossing the Channel as illegal. He asked her how somebody would get from Africa to the UK and claim asylum, and she conceded that they would have to take a small boat. And once they crossed the English Channel and applied for asylum, they would then be considered legal. Not anymore. Not anymore. And but at least not in British law. In international law, they would still be considered legal. And this is the point. We are now part of that very small brigade of countries who are defying international law. Now, there are countries who may not have signed up to the 1951 Refugee Convention. There may be some countries that are not governed by the European Court of Human Rights. But we are. We are under both. And we are not taking our responsibilities seriously because we are too enamored of rhetorical flourishes repeated, drafted by some mad civil servant and repeated by Suella Braverman and her cronies, the ministers and baby ministers across the Home Office and the Prime Minister and so on, repeated as if they know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. They haven't done their homework. They haven't looked at the case histories, because people who cite Article 31, again, they haven't looked at their case histories. All they have to do is look as far back as 2019 in British law, in British courts, to see that British law concedes that a direct route from a hostile country could well involve a 70-day travel and a 70-day transit across seemingly safe countries. There are reasons why people may wish to come to the UK. Maybe they have friends and relatives already here. Maybe they've learnt English because we've been so good at pumping out English as a foreign language, and our EFL business has been second to none in promoting English as a second language, as a tongue to get to grips with. And congratulations. I was part of that drive. I helped to write textbooks. I helped to illustrate them for quite a lot of the time. I was one of the voices that people would have heard when they were trying to learn English. Listen and repeat. hello, my name is George. But the problem is that comes with responsibility. If people have learnt English, then they're more likely to want to settle here than they are to settle in France or Germany when they don't know the language. And that's perfectly reasonable. And that is understood in the refugee laws that exist, the international laws that we are signed up to, that we follow. If we want to restrain people from coming here, then we need to process them before they make that journey. If we are serious about wanting to stop people smugglers, if we are serious about wanting to save lives, then it's very simple. We find ways to stop people using those boats. And there are ways. We build consulate offices. We build offices that are solely to take on the paperwork before people even board the boats, before people even get to France. We know where these people are coming from. We can deal with it while they're en route. We can stop all this nonsense. But we have to deal with the backlog. We have to erase the hostile environment entirely. And we have to make sure that our European friends and our partners in the Northern Hemisphere get together to redefine what the 1951 Refugee Convention really means. We may be able to keep the words, but we need to understand globally, or at least as Northern actors, we need to understand what it means and how we intend to apply those words in the future. One nation doing this on its own, wriggling around. It looks as if we don't want to take on our own responsibilities. It looks as if we are work shy. It looks as if we are a NIMBY. Well, of course we are. But the real purpose of all this is to create xenophobia and a target to distract from the real problems. And the real problems are the mismanagement of our economy, the mismanagement of our system in the period following Brexit. So that's not necessarily the same as saying Brexit is wrong, though personally I've always thought it was wrong. But I think Brexit was a perfectly viable solution until Mrs. May got her hands on it. Really, everything Mrs. May touches, it's like the Midas touch in reverse. And Liz Truss and Priti Patel and Robert Jenrick and Matt Hancock and, frankly, Rishi Sunak, though he's done better than most. Rishi Sunak is the modern Gordon Brown. He's actually quite good with the economy, and the economy might indeed start to turn round by the time we get our next general election, but it will not be enough because he is surrounded by people who the general population have come to hate in a way that I have never seen in my life before. I've never seen the country hate a government so much. Of course, they might hate individuals. They might hate the Prime Minister. But the universal opprobrium that drenches the cabinet and the present government is astonishing to behold. I think it's without parallel in modern history.